Hey, what's up guys? BJ Zell back with a new storytime video for today. A little bit different storytime though, because today's video we're going to take a trip. We're going to take a trip down memory lane, 23 years to be exact, from 1996 to 2019. I'm going to show you a drawing that I did from each and every year over those 23 years. You're going to see the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, when I should have been drawing every day and I wasn't. You're going to see the difference, and you're going to learn exactly why it's so important to draw every day. So if you want to join me, come on, let's go. All right, so let's get started. A lot of the videos I don't really have a lot of prep time behind them. This one is supposed to be a quick, fun video, and I actually took about 3.5, 4 hours trying to get all the examples for this video around. So hopefully you enjoy it and get something out of it, because a lot of time went into just leading up to this point. So like I said in the intro, I've got quite a few designs here, basically 23 years of artwork. Trying to piece together 23 years and find stuff was quite fun. So let's go ahead and go with the first one here. So this first one, this is from 1996. This was my senior year in high school. This one was actually a part of a comic book. That's why it's off-centered here. There was a box of words over here, but I just dropped out the words for this video. As you can see, pretty thick, heavy line work. It's a little blurry. I couldn't find the original one that I wanted, so this one has a little bit of blur to it, but you kind of get the idea. As you can see, I was using tapers back then. I don't really like the tapers now. Of course, they need to be tapered off a little bit more here. I kind of like them to look a little bit sharper, like so. But I was starting to play around with line weight here. This was what I'll call fake line weight, because this was not digital. This was all hand-drawn and hand-inked. When I was inking back in the day, and this, honestly, for years I did, I never got into brush pens because I was stupid, basically. My favorite go-to was the really fine, micro, thin tip pilot pens. And, of course, went through just hundreds and hundreds of those things. So, as you can see, like, on parts, you know, like, let's say this part here, to where you could go through with a nice, you know, brush and get that stroke coming around like this. Instead, I basically had to line like this, and then I had to line like this, and then slowly fill in the entire thing. Needless to say, it took forever and was an absolute waste of time. I wish I would have looked more into brush pens, or actually, you know, using a brush and, you know, India ink or something like that. But this one was, like I said, from 96. I think it still holds up pretty well. It's so 90s. Really, like, style-wise, heavily influenced by Bizarre Ride to the Far Side, the first Far Side album, the cover from that. So that's 96. As you'll see, stuff kind of goes downhill, goes up, goes down, and I'll kind of walk you through what was going on then, like lapses in time, stuff like that, to kind of give you an idea of what was going on. So this next one, 97, kind of looks a lot the same as far as the line work goes. Still using the pilot pen here. So like I said, any of these variances in line weight was all just making a line, making another line, and coloring it in, filling it in. Once again, this one's a little bit blurry. It was a little bit sharper initially, but obviously anatomy-wise, there's a lot that needs worked on. I've got this little creature guy here coming from behind. Doesn't really work that well. It doesn't stand out. It might work better with color, but it's really hard to see, just because trying to use different line weight, I didn't use it correctly, and it's really hard to make out what's going on. And then I've got these, you know, funky smoke lines coming up from everywhere, and yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, that one was from 97. Once again, not done digitally. It was a traditional piece using those Pilot pens. So that was 97. 98. This one is blast from the past. This one actually was in the local newspaper here. I did a kind of political cartoon letter to the editor. This was when the Lewinsky Clinton stuff was going on. So we got Starr and Lewinsky, Clinton, Jones, and then Saddam back there. So the media spotlight carpool, and this one was printed in the local newspaper. Once again, you know, I varied the line weight here, but not done really well because I didn't have a firm grasp on it yet, and it doesn't look bad, obviously. I mean, the paper printed it, but there's a lot that could be done better. I'm not really a big fan of the hand lettering down here too. That's definitely something that takes time to get better at. But that one was from 98, and you can see it's nice and discolored because I've still got the newspaper from that. That's actually just a photo I took in the newspaper. So, and then 99, I think 98 to 99, I didn't do like a whole lot. This is a sketch of this demon creature thing. Just, you know, a pencil sketch. The other thing, too, is trying to find some digital stuff. I had a hard drive crash back in, what was it, 2002, 2003, maybe? So, maybe 2004, I can't remember. But anything before that time, like digitally I did, is gone forever. Didn't have backups. This was back, you know, when hard drives actually cost a decent amount, so you didn't have a backup of your backup or anything like that. So this was just something I sketched out, and like I said, putting together this video, it was digging through a closet of thousands of pieces of paper and trying to remember, you know, when I drew something and pieced together a timeline for all these. So that's what took so long and made it so much fun. So that was 99. Let's hop into 2000. This one is a goat centaur kind of thing. It's really poorly done. Not a big fan looking back. Like I said, from 98, I think, to 2000, this was like a big 2-year gap of not doing stuff every day. That's why I stressed in my previous storytime video of how important it is to just draw every single day. You know, there's 4 years in between, and I think this picture back in 96 looks 10 times better than this picture in 2000. And you'll see a lot of, you know, comparison art videos online of people showing off their work, and just maybe in 2 years, you get a drastic increase in, you know, the quality of work. And with this, you've got 4 years in between, and like I said, I dropped, I think, quite a bit in skill level in between 96 and 2000, which is kind of just disheartening to see, I guess. I don't know. Just thinking back of what, you know, I could have been at if I just drew every day. But hey, life gets in the way. I hate to make excuses, and that's what I'm here today to kind of walk you through and tell you, don't make excuses, find time to do it, because it'll pay off in the long run. So that was 2000. 2001, this one is, once again, a traditional piece. This one's when I started getting into colored pencils and tried to use some blending. As you can see here, I kind of went for a different style. Absolutely no line weight whatsoever. It's the same throughout the entire thing. There's no difference from one side to the other as far as line weight goes. I think it still kind of works, but it would be a lot better if I had incorporated some sort of line weight. And as you can see too, the lines are just, you know, not all that great, kind of bad. Especially using, like I said, those Pilot pens. If you don't do those thicker lines and you just do that solid, it's going to be pretty shaky and not all that great. And then I remember doing this one, there was like a lot of blending that I did in between the different colors. So not a horrible design overall. I like the design. Execution-wise, it could have been done a lot better. And this might be one that I come back and revisit later. So let's see what's next. All right, so this one was a self-portrait from 2002, just using a kind of cartoony style. very early 2000s as well as far as the style goes. Just, the big baggy pants and the shoes and just the overall look. Not much to say about this one. I mean, it's just a sketch. Like I said, piecing together some of this stuff was kind of hard just because of the hard drive crash. And this was one that I actually had the date down on the bottom. So I knew when it was from. But it's starting to get to a point of having, a certain style. And I still like the look of it. It's not horrible by any means. But like I said, there's a lot that could have been done different as far as... with my previous videos talking about, a straight on face, could have had something off to the side. It's really plain and basic, not a lot going on. So I'm going to hop over here and open up this new one. I couldn't fit all of the files onto to one canvas, so I had to make 2 different canvases here. So that was 2002. Let's go ahead and go into 2003. All right. And this one, once again, using those little pilot pens. The pilot pens actually work good for this. This was a poetry book that I had kind of had in my head for years and went through and illustrated. And this was the first round of illustrations. And I kind of trashed this idea and went with a sketch look to them, just did it all in pencil. So this one I kind of went for more of the Shel Silverstein illustration look, which I think it turned out pretty good. The lines are super shaky, but that's what I was going for in this. I wanted it to have a certain style to it. Looking back now, obviously, I think I can see some of my style in it, but overall, it's not really something that I would do today. There's a lot that could be done different once again in this. Obviously here the line weights wouldn't really work out too well because of the approach that I took to it. So I think that works, but the rest, I mean, it's definitely a style. Like I said, I think it kind of incorporates the Shel Silverstein look a little bit too much, which that's one thing over the years I tried to get away from, was trying to, mimic or duplicate anybody's style and develop something of my own. So that was 2003. 2004 is the first digital artwork that I have on here. So, and you'll see there's quite a few. I'm seeing like 2 or 3 different ones. Said in previous videos, some of my favorite things to draw are skulls and then Frankenstein's monster. I'm a huge Frankenstein fan, so you'll see a lot of those over and over again in my artwork. So this one was a Rat Frank, kind of in the style of the Rat Fink. First, like I said, attempt at doing digital as far as in this examples here, and you can see it does not look at all like anything that I'm doing currently. So number one, when I was doing digital before, I would always ink ahead of time by hand traditionally. Then I would scan in my drawings and then color in on a multiply layer. I was never comfortable with actually trying to draw digitally. I think this is when I was still using a mouse. So number one, to try to ink digitally with a mouse is near impossible. And honestly, coloring in with a mouse is as well. That's why you'll see a lot of this is using the airbrush. And it just has a really cheap, generic look to it. It does not look that good at all. Like I said, I'm still playing around with line weights here, but not doing it digitally really shows. And especially too, just doing everything by hand and then scanning it in. The scans didn't turn out all that well. I think this kind of had to do with the age and the technology at the time and what I had to use. The scans weren't up to par, and then it kind of reflects in the work. Of course, this is saved from something I think compressed it a little bit, so it is a little bit blurry like some of those previous ones. But as you can see, there's not a lot going on as far as the way that I use shadows now. Everything is using that airbrush technique, which I'm not a big fan of, especially in this. But we're actually going to come back and revisit this one, so we will kick that one off for now. And 2005 then, once again, a Frankenstein, how about that? This one, So you can see I decided to throw in this background on it, which looks like garbage. It just does not work at all. Added the drop shadow because I thought that would be super cool. But once again, back to this airbrush, it just looks really, really chintzy. Not a big fan of that. I still, see some people using that technique, and if it's used correctly, it's okay. But even then, it's really hit or miss, and it's got to be a certain style and a certain type of design that demands the use for that. So you'll see down here, like the highlights on the shoes. I put highlights on both sides. Didn't really know where the light source was coming from. I think looking at it, maybe it's coming this way because we've got some highlights here. But yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, this was 2005. And I think this was maybe around the time that I got an Intuos pad. But even then, trying to ink and line stuff with one of those, and it's still to this day, I cannot get over the disconnect of having to look up at the screen or the monitor in front of you while your hand's down here and you're not actually watching what your hand's doing. Your eyes are watching what's going on up at the monitor. And that's one thing I've never been able to do. That's why once I actually, started drawing with tablets that have the screen built in, it was a game changer 100%. So if you are still, trying to use a mouse, number one, stop because it's horrible. If you use one of the pads like the Intuos or anything like that, that's if you can't go up to, an iPad or a Surface or something along those lines, it's better than the mouse for sure, but you'll see a huge difference in being able to actually look down and see what your pen is doing on the design and on the screen. So that's one of my recommendations, is definitely try to save up for something like that. So that was 2005, and we're going to come back to this design as well. So 2006, this one actually I still like. As you can see, I did not ink this. If you can tell, this is actually just really, really hard pressed pencil outlines. And then I kind of kept those and once again did a multiply layer when I scanned it in. And you see I started changing up stuff here. I think this is probably the first time I've using the Intuos. As you can see, I did not use the airbrush. I think here I used more of the polygon lasso and added in these just really rough shadows in here. And once again, this I think was compressed too. I don't remember it being this blurry, so I apologize about that, but this is the only version of this one I could find right off the bat without digging through 20 different hard drives. But I think colors work on this one. The overall design works. I still like the needle through the stomach with the yarn here. I'm not sure why he has a cigarette, but he has a cigarette. Just kind of, I guess, that more rough and tumble, tattered rabbit look. But overall, I think it's pretty cool. I've got the shadows down. Obviously, light source is coming in this way. I've got the shadows hitting here and then down on this side. So this was, like I said, 06 was when I started to get a little bit of a grasp of how I wanted to start digitally, creating and digitally painting. But still, I was not even inking digitally at this time. That wasn't until actually quite a bit later. So it was 2006, 2007. I think 2007, 8, and 9. There was even 10. There was kind of a gap. This was when, like I said, I wasn't drawing every day. It was when I had time and stuff like that. 2007. This is when I started working on the poetry book some more, and this was the route that I went for that. And this more of a like I said, charcoal, pencil, sketch type of look. Just, I thought it worked well because it wasn't a totally finished look. It was kind of, I don't know, just more natural. And I still think it kind of works for the book and how it turned out. But this was basically how I did it. Just outlined everything with pencil, kind of heavier, and then went back in and did the shading with the pencil. So nothing too crazy, but yeah, that was 2007 there. 2008, this one was, I think it was a Red Riding Hood one, but this was kind of where you can see that my style is coming in a little bit more. Like I said, it's hit or miss as far as how long I decided to draw for and when I decided to draw, and it kind of affected my style over the years and kind of affected how I progressed as an artist over the years. But this was 2008, like I said, just pencil drawings and sketches. I didn't really find anything digitally from 2008, so I know that I didn't do a whole lot. I think it was more just sitting down from time to time with a sketchbook. So, and then 2009, couldn't find anything at all except this, which obviously is not a sketch at all or drawing. This is a sculpture. So I think I started sculpting back in 2005, 2006. Put it down for a year or two and then picked it back up and then got pretty heavy into it back in 2009, 2010. So that's another thing too. As an artist, I always want to try something different, even though I should focus. I always joke that I have art ADHD because I just get so sidetracked with, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. So got big into sculpting for a while, and this was one of the sculptures that I did and found a picture of. Sculpting is super cool. I love it, but at the same time, it's a distraction from drawing. I still felt good because it was doing art, so it was fulfilling as far as the creative process goes. But at the same time, if you're not drawing every day, even if you're sculpting, you're not going to get better at drawing. Likewise, if you're drawing every day and you're not sculpting, you're not going to get better at sculpting. So it's like a give and take type of thing. For me, I still like to sculpt, and I still do. I just do it very, very rarely. And it's more of a return on investment of time type of thing. The ROI is just not there for me. It is good feeling as far as creatively to create something and something that you can hold in your hands. But as far as sculptures go, even if you sell them, I personally never did any molds or anything like that to where I could resell a sculpture. So they would just be one of a kinds. Once they were sold, that was it. And honestly, a lot of time goes into these sculptures. And when you factor in your time plus the materials that it takes to be able to sell them, to make it worth it, really isn't possible unless, number one, you make a name for yourself and you're selling them for thousands upon thousands of dollars, or if you take the time to make molds and kind of do a production run and mass produce them, which, like I said, I never did and never got into. So that's another thing that is kind of a sidetrack when you're trying to, like I said, get better, and you find all these other things that you love, and you got to stay focused on one or the other. So let's see, 2010, this one is kind of a fan art piece, the clown from Nightmare Before Christmas. This one is kind of cool because it's a mix of traditional and digital. This one actually I inked, I believe, with a brush and India ink, and then also added watercolor on top, and then put it into Photoshop, added some filters and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. It's not bad. 2010, like I said, I didn't find a lot for 2010, so the sculpting kind of went over to that as well. And that was all I found, so not a lot. You can see here, I like the line work, and I did try something a little bit different, so not too horrible. 2011, there we go. This was actually from another book that I worked on. This was all, once again, just, I think it was Pilot Pen this time. And then I did this whole watercolor tea stain cook in the oven to give it the aged texture. Overall, it's not horrible, but just looking at this one being 2011, I still like the line work and the inks and just the overall just way that the drawing flowed from that one back in 96. So we're talking about 14 years at this point in between that one and this one, and I still like the one from 14 years earlier better. And obviously after 14 years you should see a huge significant bump in your work if you're doing this every day or putting the effort into it. And I think this kind of shows that I wasn't doing that, and it's just not really what I wanted to go for. And I mean, it looks okay, like I said, but once again, it was scanning in, so everything's really washed out as far as the inks go. I didn't really adjust, I don't think, the contrast, and well, actually, maybe I did in the finished product. This one was the original piece, and I found, and I actually just took a photograph of it tonight, so maybe I did do that in the final version. I'll have to go back and see, but that is that one. So that was 2011. 2012. This one was, I think, when stuff kind of started changing for me as far as line weight and getting comfortable happened. This one was when I got big into doing caricatures, and I was doing traditional, but I was using brush pens, and that was all that I used for the caricatures. And that's where I really got comfortable with the pressure that it takes, and the arm movements and the wrist movements that it takes to, get the different line weights. And that might be one of the things to try if you're having problems digitally getting nice clean lines. If you're having problems with getting that flow on the iPad or the Surface or whatever you're using, maybe grab some brush pens from the store and some paper and just play around and try it out. This was kind of my introduction to them, and it was a huge learning process over a couple of years, and it really helped my art. I think more than anything else within the past 5 or 6 years was just using those brush pens and learning how to press and how to hold the pen, because with this Apple Pencil, especially the pressure sensitivity and then the tilt, it's going to work a lot like a regular brush pen. And I think training your wrist to do that with something that actually exists in the real world that's traditional might be something to try to train your brain and train your hand and that muscle memory on how to get those strokes. So it's Walter White from Breaking Bad, in case you couldn't tell. So 2013, this is the one I said I was going to go back to. This was the one from 2004. Actually had somebody that wanted to use this for a client wanted to use this for the logo for their garage. So I recreated this one, and I did use, I think, just used regular pens for this. I might have used some brush pens in here, but I wanted to have a certain look, and the client did too. They wanted it close to the original as far as the way that it was designed, but I wasn't happy with that original one, and like I said, wanted to change it up quite a bit. There is definitely a good jump in quality and, I guess, artistic expertise between these two. You can kind of tell. Of course, this one's 6 years old. I'm still not totally happy with it now, seeing some of my work. Lately, I would definitely go back and make some changes. I think, if I remember correctly on this one too, the shadows and stuff, I actually did those with markers before I scanned it in. So I had a lot of the shadow work done ahead of time because I wanted that nice, natural flow to it. So that one was from 2013. 2014 is where everything changes. So 2014 was when I first got my Surface Pro, and this was the first thing I ever drew with the Surface Pro. And you can tell, just from that last one to this one, like I said, this was a mix of traditional and digital, and just going all digital just is night and day between there. Like I said, getting that practice in with those brush pens, working on the caricatures, kind of paid off here, because I've got a lot of line weight usage throughout this picture, and learning how to do the shadows and get those in right, and almost that cell shaded style, which I still use today. I think this one's the turning point of everything, and I remember this one being the first one that I ever did with that Surface, and just how blown away I was with it. And that one I used Manga Studio Pro, or now it's called Clip Studio, but that's what that was done with. So 2014, let's go to 2015. This was still with the Surface Pro. You can tell, I think between the two, this one still a little rough here. I mean, if you zoom in, there was some lines not connected, and there was some, you know, parts here that overlapped, and there was some stuff here and there that could have been done better. But this one here, this was a client piece. This one was a logo design. So as you can see, the line weight here is really nearing into what I use currently. This one was, you know, going on 4 years ago. Colors look good. The shadows look good. The line weight looks good. This one I would have been okay with making yesterday. So I'm pretty still happy with this piece. It looks good, even though it is a few years old. And then we'll go to this one, 2016. This was, I'm sure, one that you've seen before. It's pretty much the header and the icon and profile pic and everything for my channel. So this one was a lot of fun. I don't do a huge amount of work like this. I love it, but these take a lot of time. So this is what I call the rock art poster, basically. It's got that feel to it. Usually with these, you'll have a set base of colors. So I don't do any shadowing in this. I don't do any highlights. I just use different colors to achieve that effect. And this is something that you would see more in screen printing, because with screen printing, you can only use so many colors, and the more colors you use, the more expensive it gets. So the lower colors used in a design, the more cost effective it is for a client. But as you can see, just the amount of work that it takes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 colors basically used in this to give this effect. But every line is, you know, super tapered, and you've got to be careful where you put the lines, because, you know, these that are the lightest colored, those are going to work as the highlights. So you'll see, you give the illusion of this having the light source coming in from this way, just using those lighter colors. And as you can see, it's just super detailed. There's so many lines, and like I said, it takes absolutely forever to do. I might do a section of one of these for a tutorial video, but definitely won't do one from start to finish unless it was a super sped up time lapse. Usually something like these, they're going to take about 15-20 hours to do, so there's a lot of time involved. I love to do them, like I said, but at the same time, I like to get work done fairly fast, and putting 20 hours into one piece. If it's a client that's paying well, hey, let's do it. If it's something that I'm doing for myself, sometimes I'll try to go with something a little bit simpler, unless it's really just like a passion piece that I want to do. But this is, I think, one of the favorite ones that I've done with that style. I really still like it, so... that was 2016. Let's hop to 2017. This one's another client piece. This was for a card game. This was kind of the promotional piece used. It wasn't actually featured in the game or anything like that. Just kind of like a teaser for the game, to where started getting some character designs down, and they used this to kind of advertise and build up some hype around the game. So this one I used a little bit of a different technique. Obviously still use the shadows and the highlights like I usually do, but you can see here I also used a little bit of an airbrush on the faces to give the rosiness to the cheeks, and the nose here, because these are drunken Vikings, so they needed that kind of rosy look to them, so kind of put that all around. I think it still works. Like I said, not a fan of the airbrush technique, but when you use it sparingly in combination with some of the other techniques that I've shown in previous videos, I think it works in this case, and still really like how this one came out. So it was kind of fun too, adding in, you know, a background behind here and kind of a little mountain scene, a little bit of a landscape painting as well. So that was 2017. 2018, obviously, I did an absolute ton of stuff, but like with this style that I've shown you before, 2018, though, I did try my hand at digital painting, so I'll pull this up. This is the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So, once again, this took a while to do, but I like the look that I got from it. I don't do a lot of digital painting like this, but I wanted to give it a try, and it's a lot of fun because you don't actually use lines. Your painting is your line. So there was a sketch process to sketch everything out, but then working the colors in and the way the shadows hit on the sides here and the highlights and stuff like that is what actually makes your outline. So this one was a lot of fun to do, and I still like the way it turned out. The eyes have a nice realistic look to it. I don't know if that'll show up there on the camera or not, but this one was a lot of fun to do. So that was 2018. So 2019, the one I'm going to show you now, it was like combination 2018, 2019, and this is why I wanted to end the video. At the end of last year, I had a client reach out to me on the internet, and they found a picture online that I did, and they wanted to license it for their use. And this picture just so happened to be this Frankenstein here. Now, like I said, this Frankenstein, I'm not happy with it. I don't like it. I think it looks like garbage. And this Frankenstein was done back in 2005. So, fast forward 13, 14 years, and I was blown away that, a client would reach out and say, hey, I want to license this. Because, like I said, I'm not happy with it. I don't like it. And I would just assume that other people would look at it the same way that I do. Of course, being artists, we're our hardest critics, and I just did not understand. So I replied to the client that they could definitely, license the piece and could use the piece. However, I would not license them or let them use that piece because of that, and I would want to redraw it. So that's what I did, and this last piece is that redrawn at my current skill level and how I currently create digital art. So let's pull that up, and I'm going to throw it on top of that layer. So this kind of shows you the comparison from 2005 to 2019, so 14 years, and this is the difference. So as you can see, it's the same character, basically the same pose. We get the same size here, so you can tell everything's in the same position as far as holding the cigarette and the wrench and everything else. But I mean, just overall anatomy wise, I don't even know what this hand's doing here. This is so bad. Why this middle knuckle is so much bigger for perspective wise. This one, would kind of go into there and there and there if that was the case. But yeah, just that's bad. The way the pants lay, the boots, everything was just horrible. And then this one, as you can tell, super good use of line weight. Everything just looks so much cleaner, especially with the coloring and the shadows, the style that I use for that. And I think that it's just a super strong piece and is a great example to show you what putting in effort actually gives you. Obviously, 14 years is a long time to get from one to the other. If you put in that work every day, you'll get there a heck of a lot quicker. If you watch videos and take some online classes, I've heard Skillshare is really good, and some of the other ones. That's definitely a way to improve. And like I said, just practice, and you will definitely see improvements along the way. Just don't wait like I did, and don't put your art down and pick it back up and put it back down. Just stick with it and get to where you want to be. It takes time, but like I said, the effort that you put into it is definitely worth it, and you will see the results if you just take the time. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching as always, and if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the bell for notifications if you want to get alerts when I post new videos going forward. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. And if you haven't yet, make sure you join that Facebook group. We'd love to have you. Meet new cool friends, post your artwork. The link's in the description, so hop on over to Facebook and join us, won't you? Until next time, though, keep creating.